Begin our meeting in just one moment. Please take your seats. Time is now 7:32, and this meeting will come to order. Welcome to the September 5th, 2023 meeting for the council work session for the town of Forest Heights, Maryland. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Noble. Here. Councilmember Hines. Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Browson. Browson here. Council President McDonald.
Here.
Councilmember Hines.
Present, can you hear me?
He's trying to get on. I'm Mayor Lily.
Present, ma'am.
We have a quorum.
Did we get a voice from Councilmember Hines? Councilmember Hines, are you able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me? Present.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, she said present.
At this time, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. At this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Next, we will have approval of the consent agenda. I move that we adopt tonight's consent agenda.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's consent agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right. Consent agenda is adopted. At this time, we will have approval of the main agenda. I move that we adopt the main agenda for this evening.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the main agenda for this evening. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right. Main agenda has been adopted. Next, we will have Ms. Shanice Little sworn in as the Ward 1 council member by myself. Ms. Little, please come forward. And for those of you who don't know, we had a vacancy that was created when I was elected mayor here at Port Sites, and we issued a letter in the newsletter. We asked interested residents in Ward 1 to put themselves forward to be considered for council member. And Ms. Shanice Little, who is a lifelong resident of Port Site, answered the call. And so it's my pleasure to have, I think her family is in the audience today, Mr. Mo. Stand over here. You're gonna say this. You're gonna stand over there a little bit, stand over there, stand over there. And face me.
Oh.
You're gonna come a little closer.
Okay.
Excellent. All right.
And which hand do I put on?
So would you like to swear or affirm?
Swear.
Okay, swear. Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand.
Thank you.
I state your name.
I, Shanice Little,
Do swear that I will
do swear that I will
support the Constitution of the United States
support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will
and that I will
be faithful and bear true allegiance
be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of
execute the office of
Town Council
Town Council
for the town of Forest Heights
for the town of Forest Heights,
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just one moment, I'm going to pencil things. Actually, let's sign this. Just to give you your town of Forest Heights, is it okay if I come this year? Congratulations again.
Thank you, Mayor Lilly.
Let's give her. Take a picture with me, and I'll let you all together.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Town Administrator. Mom, do you want to come up? Mom and daughter, would you like to come up? Very nice. Congratulations. Thank you. Well, now that you've been sworn in.
Come on.
Thank you. Please.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for indulging us. It's good to have a full council once again. Next, we will have reports. And first, we'll begin with the town treasurer, Mr. Todd Frankenfield. Mr. Frankenfield, are you online this evening?
Yes, just making sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Excellent.
Just making sure my voice, can someone just say, hey, yeah, we hear you?
Give us just
No,
one
thank
moment,
you.
sir. We want to make sure your volume is appropriate so everyone can hear you. Just one moment.
And it could be on my side. Is that better?
That's better. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you,
sorry
sir, for
about
being
that.
here.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm gonna try to, Mayor, can you bring up the reports, the cash balances and the expenditures report? I want to talk about that a little bit. I'm not sure I can hear you.
Are you able to hear us, sir?
Mayor, will you say something? I can't hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, we can hear you as well.
Okay, sorry about the confusion there. Good evening, everybody. I'm Todd Frankenfield. I'm a CPA with Alta CPA Group. I assume in paper you have copies of the two financial reports that we do monthly. The first, the cash balances report, reflects revenues, or excuse me, cash receipts and expenditures for the month. In summary, we collected $102,000 approximately of unrestricted dollars in August. For restricted dollars, majority of that speed camera receipts, that was approximately $115,000 in August. Disbursements totaled $468,000. Approximately $200,000 of that was payroll, and the remainder was accounts payable and credit card disbursements. To sum it up, we ended the month with $2.1 million worth of cash and reserves heading into September. Something to think about as we talk about our revenues and cash balances. Property tax collections will pick up here September through the end of the fiscal year. So we'll see an uptick in some of the revenues collected year to date. All right, the next report is our expenditures report. So we're reflecting year to date expenditures. So year to date, meaning July 1 of 2023 through August 31st, reflects our breakdown of spending across departments. So payroll's itemized, credit card spending's itemized, and then accounts payable's itemized. You can see the activity, the most significant department spends of the town. And again, this is year to date. Spend looks good. We have approximately $8 million left of the total 2024 budget. So 87% remaining. You know, we're in the second month of the fiscal year, so we're looking for something like 84, 83% if we straight line spend over the year. So spend looks good year to date. And I'll stop there. Any questions? Anything I can elaborate on?
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield.
Absolutely.
Council Member Brownson has a question. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Treasurer, Is it possible we can get a cash disbursement ledger on how the check disbursement to see what's going out detailed?
Yeah, and we've had some conversations about changing up the reporting package, right? So that is a report that I think would be helpful. So you as commissioners can see, here's the detail of all the spend. So we'll work to include that in our reporting package going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield. Councilmember Brownson, any other questions? Are there questions from other council members on the treasurer's report for this month? All right, hearing none, we'll move to the next report. Next, we will have the Department of Public Works report for this month.
Thank you for bearing with me.
Sure, is your microphone on?
Can you
Just
hear me?
no, pull that microphone closer to you, sir.
Yes, thank you for bearing with. Good evening, Town Administrator, Mayor and Council. August 15th, I met with the Town Administrator and the Art Manager to discuss projects on Sachem and Seneca Drive that would run simultaneously. The Veterans Memorial, the Gatherings Place, the Seneca Drive Focal Garden. These projects would run concurrently with the Calvert Contracting LLC road excavation of the sinkhole located on Seneca Drive. The Veterans Memorial would get a facelift. Former council member and city resident was given an opportunity to have an input. Booth Specialized Tree Service began work on Thursday, August 17th at 8 a.m., removing dead trees, diseased trees, problem trees that was responsible for damaging power lines and the sidewalk and roadways. The result, sinkholes. DPW and Booth Specialized Tree Service was instrumental in cleaning up the Gatherings Place, exposing the building in the dense woods behind the stage, adding another 1/4 acre to the lot. Those trees removed was replaced with beautiful crepe myrtles, sweet magnolia, evergreen, and colorful landscaping plants and shrubberies. The Seneca Focal Garden was overgrown with dead plants, diseased plants, shrubberies, and vines. It was given a facelift and is now more manageable. That concludes my report. If there's any questions, I would take them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Belnavis. Are there any questions from council on the Department of Public Works report for this month?
I have a question.
Councilmember Brownson, you're recognized.
They are, I noticed that the Department of Public Works through the county is redoing the playground at on Bell Acres Park. And I'm sure that Public Works, you're aware of it, but the residents, we weren't given notice or about the ongoing construction of the new playground there. And I know they have started doing something there. So, are we gonna contact the residents or something? Because at one point it was blocked off where the children couldn't play. So what's the status of that and can we be informed?
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson. I don't know if Mr. Belnavis has insight into that, but I think the town administrator does. Mr. Jones, could you speak
Yes,
to
sir.
that project?
Good evening, Mayor and
Is your
council.
microphone on?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. That project is actually being run by Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. They did reach out to the town. And we sent out a notice in one of the newsletters about the playground. You just stating that it was blocked off is new to me. We were told that the playground wasn't going to be touched until the end of September. So. Okay. Oh, maybe they were doing like measuring or something like that, but they recently came to the Thursday night in Forest Heights with the sample pictures that allowed residents, there were a few residents in attendance. They got to see what we'll vote on, which design they liked best. But it's my understanding that they will not be starting construction until the end of September. One, I inquired because of Forest Heights Day, and those two properties abut each other. And they would send out residential notifications. So as soon as I get something from them and they're kind of slow in sending it, I try to get it out. Usually the newsletter is published or something like that, but as soon as I get it, I try to push it out.
I would also add, Councilmember Brownson, it's a great question. When the notification went out in the newsletter, I was told by the representative who was here that they had residents show up that day because they actually had an ice cream truck. So folks came out and they said they actually collected, I think, feedback from about 25 to 30 people, which included those who will be using the playground, some of the children. And they did bring out some of the displays of potential options and where you can take stickers and vote for the ones that you like the most. So yeah, we're happy that residents did give input and hopefully they'll be able to give a little more. And is that your understanding, Mr. Jones? Yes. So great question. And we're looking forward to the rehabilitation and upgrade of the playgrounds. Any other questions for Department of Public Works? Councilmember Noble.
Oh, this isn't for Public Works, but just on a theme of the playground. There were children from the town of Forest Heights that drew what they wanted the playground to look like. So I don't know what decision making is going on, but those families should have been included as well. And then on the note of Forest Heights Day, I know we have 200 Talbot Drive as the Forest Heights Elementary School, but if we can also have somewhere where you can access it from Bell Acres, because it's easier to access from Bell Acres than it is from the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Let me take a note. If we could, Mr. Jones, can we notate and update our plan for access from Bell Acres Park?
Yes, both sides in the layout, actually, both sides have balloon arches for the event, so.
Okay. So it sounds like we're on it, Councilmember Noble. Okay. Council President McDonald.
Yes, good evening. I had a question regarding the follow-up at 5501 Alden Way. The email that I sent regarding Ms. Slaws and the situation that she had reported regarding the trees growing over into her property. I sent the email. You responded back to me. I just didn't know if it was followed up.
Mr. Belnavis, I think Council President McDonald is asking about, there was a resident that reported an issue with trees, I think, growing into their yard on Alden Way. Do you have an update about that?
Well, council member, I did, you were correct. I did respond to the email after speaking with, reaching out to the resident. I had Mr. I had the public, the lead go over and look at the property. The last thing he said to me was you had to go into her property in order to remove any limbs or trees growing over to on her side. The issue we're having here is we have to get permission from her. We can't just, as DPW, we can't just go on to people's property and say we're going to go ahead and remove those limbs. So the one thing we wanted to do was to either reach out to code enforcement and have code enforcement reach to her, and then once they give us the okay that we can go onto the property, that's when I would actually proceed. But again, I just got back from vacation today. So I haven't really had a conversation with Mr. Watkins,
Okay.
but I will get back with you no later than tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belnavis. Council President McDonald, any other questions? Are there any other questions for the Department of Public Works report for this month? Okay. And Mr. Belnavis will get back to Council President McDonald tomorrow, which is September the 6th. All right, we will now move to the next report, which is Code Enforcement Division. Mr. Green, can you give a brief overview of this month's report if there's any information that stands out, sir?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Things are pretty much moving along. Well, we've had a few complaints on all the way also about some of those overgrown trees from neighbor to neighbor. And we went out and addressed those issues with those neighbors and let them know that they need to tend to those overgrown bushes. It looks like some progress is being made, but there's still more work to be done. They also complained about trash cans and things out in the street. But when I went down there to do that investigation, there was nothing there. But I did see some folks from the county that were, I don't know if they were contacted about the same, and if that area at the end of the street belongs to the county, but they were back there trimming some of the trees and things back. So some work has been done thus far. The other thing we have going on now is trying to establish a better line of communication that we've talked about with the non-English speaking residents so that we can have a better communication and a better understanding of what our division is all about. So we're still working out a process for that. Everything else in the report is pretty straightforward, and I don't think I have anything else if there's any questions.
But yet I'll just add that prior to some of the changes in mayorship and in leadership, we had a code compliance community meeting scheduled, and we shifted it on the calendar. But I think that we are going to find a new date that works so we can bring the community together and the staff together, listen to one another, and build a stronger relationship. So going forward, we'll be able to work in sync together.
Thank you. Now, I would appreciate that, and I'm sure they would too. Also, we've been addressing those areas and concerns with the vacant property lots that need to be maintained. Mr. O'Connor and Public Works have done an outstanding job with assisting in that. I know there's still things that need to be done and still need to be addressed. So we're still working diligently to get those things all worked out.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Council.
We know that's in the ordinance, and we say, yes, they should read and they should know. But I think just as a courtesy, we could probably bridge that gap a little bit by helping them, because we have a lot of seniors in our community that are not aware of, things that are perhaps in the ordinance. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Councilmember Noble.
I just want to bring up the matter about the rental properties because we do have some renters in the town of Forest Heights, and I know Councilwoman Brownson brought up the tax rate. So this is September. So maybe this is something that I don't know if the code enforcement officer can share with the treasurer to come up with a reasonable tax rate for renters, owners that rent their properties. Thank you.
Councilmember Brownson.
Yeah, I comment on that as well. I think that there are people, properties that are rented without permits. So do we have a list of properties that are rental properties that we can share?
We actually do have a list of rental properties, and you are absolutely right. There are a number of properties that are renting without permits. But the only way that we can find that out is once we have some sort of infraction, and once we send them, we'll see a separate address for the owners, or someone may come in, as we've had one property come in and say, well, you know, the owner didn't get the mail yet. We're going to make sure that she gets it. So then I know it's a rental property, and then we address it accordingly. So the list is expanding. And those who are no longer renting, we're requiring affidavits from them so that we can take them off of their rental property list also. But I do have a list anytime that's always available.
So is it a fact that a person cannot own two primary properties? So if they have two properties, one of them have to be classified as something other than a primary resident?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the code enforcement report for this month? All right, before we move from this section, I do want to say for residents who are watching that we've had stepped up code enforcement in the town in the past. To my knowledge, some regulations weren't always followed or enforced, but we're moving toward a place where we want to make folks aware so that we can comply. And part of that process is education. So I thank you for bearing with us as we have begin to have more conversations and more interactions so that residents can learn what's in the code. And then also when situations happen, I try to be present and come up with a solution that is workable for folks who live here and are served by code compliance. So thank you for your patience. This is a work in progress, but feedback from the council and from the community is going to be very instrumental in how we move forward. So thank you. Next, we will have the.
I just have one suggestion.
Sure.
Maybe on the education part, maybe in the newsletter, we can start publishing some of the codes, especially ones that you're going to be working on enforcing. Maybe publish those codes in the newsletter and keep publishing them. And so that's a form of education for the residents.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson. That's a good point. Ms. Chief Reese.
To Councilwoman Brownson's point, so we are working on, as we have been posting the ordinance, so maybe what we're working on is simplifying the language, because it's hard for a resident to understand the ordinance that we pass, of shortening the sentences so they can understand it. And we are going to be posting as well as the with code enforcement, as well as the police department, we'll be posting like most common violations, so the town can be aware. But, you know, as the code enforcement, as he goes around and sees, you know, some other specific violations, those won't be in there. But that mainly just him starting the conversation with the resident. But as far as the other violations, the most ones that he writes, as far as the police department, we will be posting those in a newsletter. And it's kind of like a quick tip thing to the residents, so they can simplify the violations and understand. And the biggest problem is just it's the county, that, you know, some residents go to the county ordinance rather than the town ordinance. And then, like you said, we want to start that conversation so they can understand that some people don't even know that they're living in a municipality, and there are a set of rules and regulations that we have as far as they have to follow the county and us. So we will be putting that in the upcoming newsletter to make it simplify for the residents.
Thank Thank you, Chief Reese. Now, when you said the next newsletter, do you mean the one after this month? Obviously, it's not this one.
Yes.
I just want to make sure the folks don't expect to see it in the next few days, and I don't want them to be disappointed, but I like the collaboration, Chief. It sounds like he hears the concern, and I think the council members are 100% right. We got to do this from multiple angles, and so look to see the progress on getting those most common violations published in the newsletter as information for residents. Any other questions on this particular report? Okay, next we'll move on to the Ombudsman's report. Are there any questions for the Ombudsman's report for this month? Hearing none, next we will move on to the Youth and Community Outreach Bureau. And Mr. Holland has an excused absence for today, but are there any questions or comments from council on the report for this month? Council Member Noble.
Yes, I just want to say, as far as the youth and community outreach for the month of August, I think it was very productive, very aggressive. To the council president with the bike ride, and then with the Amazon giveaway at Bach Road, and with the bag giveaway. So it was a lot. So the community appreciates it. And so let's just keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Are there any other questions or comments on this report? Okay, next we will move to the ARPA Project Manager's report. And Mr. O'Connor, if you could give me a brief overview of your report for this month, sir.
Sure. All right, Mayor and Council, good evening. Just a brief follow-up on Delaware Drive, addressing resident complaints related to speeding. After getting some videos, I was able to use time distance formulas to calculate the speed of the actual vehicles. It was amazing video because it was dead on, but the fastest vehicle was 32 miles per hour and the slowest vehicle was 17 miles per hour. So there's still not a speeding issue on that particular roadway. However, because of the complaints, I did take a greater look at the actual roadway itself. The roadway it's been around for a long time, but basically what it is it comes down to a roadway engineering issue. And that road in itself was not built for modern day traffic, modern day sized vehicles, what we're dealing with today with the larger trucks. My recommendation, as it is in my report, is that we look at the roadway engineering as far as on-street parking and the roadway not being a two-way traffic roadway anymore, because it cannot support two-way traffic with vehicles being parked on both sides of the road. So the complaints did bring up some valid points in roadway engineering. However, that ultimately is a decision not made by me, but just a recommendation that would definitely help with the flow of traffic on that roadway. Continue to collaborate with the police department for install of their security and safety systems, and that's moving forward pretty well. We should have some serious forward momentum as of September 7th. The big news, Seneca Drive, the sinkhole repair, that project for the sinkhole itself is actually completed. It was a significant amount of deterioration to the roadway. And we addressed several other issues contained within there, but also there is a running water issue. I believe some of the council members came out and we were able to address that, but the overgrowth of the trees and the roots deteriorated some of the water lines and sewer lines that were through there. So that's going to have to be addressed in the future. As I'm sure everybody can see over at the community gathering place, there's a significant amount of construction still ongoing, replanting of trees, removal of trees in preparation for the larger Arapahoe Drive project, removing the roots that were pushing up the sidewalks and actually removing old cinder blocks and getting it to where it should be, actually graded level with proper curbage in place. So that's currently underway. Still working on the future annexations. I do believe I have one set that is there, wait for legal review. We're just letting the other annexations settle. And with that, I will be providing CPJ and Associates the completed annexation so they can fully update the map that they keep on file for us. Still waiting on final award from the grant for the police department, which should be in October. Anticipated amount of $304,000. And we're still waiting on the MOU from State Highway Administration, because now that's back with their legal team due to 1 or 2 changes that needed to be made. However, it's significant progress from where we were. An update on this report, I just got back heard from the Prince George's County Tree Program, and they actually are no longer paused for the fiscal end of things. They actually have schematics for the hundreds of trees that they are willing to plant for free in the jurisdiction. So I will be getting those schematics back from them, running this program through and bringing it to the town administrator for review, and then eventual review by the mayor and council. It's a great program. Everything is provided by the county for free. We just have to keep the trees up. Residents will notice that there is markings all over Arapahoe Drive, Arapahoe Terrace, Modoc Lane. Some of the work has begun on Modoc Lane as far as the stairways and the concrete is concerned. And construction actually is ahead of schedule right at this time, because we've been able to attack some of the smaller projects while we wait on the bigger projects to start. The report in front of you obviously is the paper copy. It's just a few pages, but I figured the best way to see the greatest impact that we're having is there was probably about 89 different photos that was sent in your email through a Dropbox link for my full report. So there's a total of 89 photos of all of the progress of all the construction projects that we've been doing. Unfortunately, there was no way for me to condense the file and make it small enough to send through email with all the photos that were attached.
Well, might I suggest, I think we could maybe add a SharePoint folder for ARPA projects, or just project management. Photos can be dropped there and we can give a link to council. Is that a workable solution, Mr. Jones? Okay. Well, thank you for the overview, Mr. O'Connor. Questions from council for this report? Council Member Kennedy.
Delaware Drive. One of the most important things I think people may or may not be looking at when you drive up and down Delaware Drive, there's actually 2 blind spots because there's 2 curves in that road. If we start making every road in this town one way, every road will be one way. None of these roads were designed to have this much traffic back in the day. Everything's gotten larger. Every vehicle that you see on the road is larger compared to 20 years ago. You made a comment that you use some algorithm to figure out the speed. Couldn't we just put a officer there with the actual speed camera?
So I actually sat out there with a radar, actually LiDAR gun, and I did it myself. So the math that I used really isn't an algorithm. I'm a level 3 vehicular homicide investigator. And what I used is a time distance formula that equates point entrance A and point B on a video, usually straight line. I use the time distance formula, and that's how I get the speed. It's usually within 2 miles per hour of the actual speed, credit given to the driver for the actual slower speed. With the LiDAR, at the previous meeting, I conducted an 85th percentile study. So basically you take the 15% of the fastest cars, remove it, you get the 85th percentile, which is 85% of all cars are traveling at X speed on that roadway. So what I found is actually the 85th percentile speed on that road is 28 miles per hour. Or was it 27.69 miles per hour roughly? So you do have the 15% removed. The average speed was 31 miles per hour. So there, when you come down, a speeding problem is really not evident on the roadway. So what it comes down to is engineering, and I do agree with you 100%. The two blind spots play a significant role. That's why I made two suggestions. One, you do have the option of making it one way, which I really don't support that, just for the same reasons that you had already said. But you can address the on-street parking by either making it no parking on the blind areas, because what I found in actually sitting there and driving the road. So I drove the road multiple times in a smaller vehicle and a large vehicle to see how the traffic patterns affected. And in the larger vehicle, it was harder to negotiate when you had oncoming traffic, especially on the bend closer. Not so much on the Sachem side. The Sachem side sort of opens up a little bit more, which makes it easier, and there's not more parking there. It's actually, you get down closer, you get really tightened up. And then when there's trash cans, it's even worse. So I do understand the issue going on there, but there's multiple solutions that we can find, and one that's not going to have a massive impact to the residents, but also satisfy the complaints that have been brought forward.
Okay, then the other question is, based on what you just said, that it doesn't warrant a speed hump?
Now, speed humps are used if there's a speeding problem. So there's no speed problem, and speed humps actually on that roadway would cause more of a detriment based on where they were placed if it was at the top of the bottom. Yeah, it's just because there's so many blind turns, like you said.
Okay, well, the only reason I'm asking is because Sachem has at least three on the main strip once you come up Delaware and make a left.
Yeah.
So this is a twofold reason why I'm saying that. So that way anybody who's watching this now or later can revisit this and understand why we have three on that one strip, but none on Delaware.
Yeah. So, and to your point, absolutely valid. The design of Sachem is wide, open, encourages speeding, and even with the speed bumps in place, you can still get speeding once you pass basically the second speed bump in between Delaware all the way up. So you do get the people that floor it up through there, and they do exceed 30 miles per hour very easily. So it's by the nature and the dynamic of basically roadway engineering encourages speeding. So the speed humps are absolutely necessary on that road to control it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember Noble.
Yes, I just have a question. Instead of a speed hump, can Delaware have like a calming? Well, not a traffic expert, but I know in other areas, it's called a calming where.
Traffic
it's slow.
calming.
Yes, because I know you were doing your study, but you missed that one that, was speeding past me on Delaware, but that's okay. But if we could have like a calming something on Delaware, because it is awkward. And I know those speed humps, even on Creed, if someone picks up speed, they lose control on those speed humps. So.
But there's definitely vehicles that speed on the roadway. I'm going to tell you there was 15% removed to the total we're speeding. But the ordinance we have reflects speed humps. There's no traffic calming devices that are authorized, because the ones that we have are actual speed humps. Although there are other things that could be used, such as rumble strips, or we could rumble in indentations that prior to the turns they rumble, but then you also have to deal with the ambient noise and issues that come to the residents. I know the police department had officers out there. They put a vehicle out there to slow people down, and during construction, it was a little bit more prevalent. I absolutely recognize that. I'll see if there's any other type of measures that can be put into place that don't require an ordinance or a large expenditure. And I'll work with the police chief and the town administrator to figure it out.
Sounds great, because the residents on Delaware have a concern, so we need to do something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Council Member Kennedy.
I will say this, even with the turns, the twists, the parking on both sides, fire trucks and ambulance have had no problem coming up and down Delaware.
Yeah, it's not the one-way traffic. It's when you get the bottleneck of two vehicles at the same time. I experienced it firsthand. So it's not the one-way traffic, the fire trucks, everything is good. When you have two vehicles parked on the same side of the road, you run into the issue of getting them by through the bends.
Well, I saw that more when it was detoured and everybody was coming through there. That's when we started seeing
Yes,
interest in traffic. I'll leave it at that.
absolutely.
But under normal circumstances, when the town was not detoured up Delaware, down Delaware, it was fine.
Yes, I do agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. And I'd also add that in our search for solutions, if it does require an ordinance change, the council will, consider that if it gives us more options to deal with the issue. So the ordinance is not a barrier, it's a tool. And I think we're a yes, if not no, because group of folks. So we're willing to hear all possible solutions and consider them. I also would add that I think council has the authority that they deem. So to add speed humps, even if a scientific study does not capture that they're needed there, if we choose to do so, we can adopt legislation to install speed humps. So that's also a consideration. Any other questions for the ARPA project manager's report for this month?
Yes, Councilwoman Hines, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Councilmember Hines, go ahead, please.
Okay, my question is, I see signs that say 20 miles per hour. Where is 30 miles coming into the picture? I'm not understanding.
Councilmember Hines, we lost the last half of your question. Can you repeat that again?
I'm asking about the speed limit in the town. Is it 20 miles per hour or 30 miles?
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. Mr. O'Connor.
We did an ordinance that changed it to 30 miles per hour. The entire speed limit in the jurisdiction is 30 miles per hour. Those signs that say 20 and 10 miles per hour have been strategically being removed by the Department of Public Works. So the new signs should be posted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. Just one moment. Speed. Councilmember Kennedy, did you have a comment, sir?
Sure. So based on the conversation we just had with the twists, the turns, the narrow roads, parking on both sides, should we revisit this and lower the speed limit instead of raising it if we have all these obstructions?
So there's two lines of thought on that. The general rule in traffic safety is that in order to gain compliance with the speed limit, lowering the speed limit does not gain compliance, or even in the traffic engineering. Actually, by lowering the speed limit to unreasonable speeds, you encourage people to speed more. And then, so what you usually do is a study of the roadways to find out what the actual 85th percentile speed is. And then you set that speed based on the total 85th percentile. So they do it a lot. It's standard practice. You just don't lower the speed to gain compliance. But if you're going to lower the speed on a particular road, you would then have to have the ability to enforce that education and everything that goes with it. So it is a tool that you have, but like I said, unreasonable speeds don't encourage people to follow the speed limit. It encourages them to actually speed more.
And I can understand that and agree with that to it within reason, but the speed limit doesn't encourage people to do the speed limit, because if that was the case, you wouldn't have people doing 80, 100 plus on the Beltway.
No.
So it seems like what we did was took the easy way out and just raised the speed limit. So that way 85 percentile is not speeding.
I couldn't answer it that way. It's more so to bring it more into conforming with the manual for uniform traffic control devices. But again, that wasn't my decision to change the speed limit. If the mayor and council want to explore lowering the speed limit to 25 miles per hour in the entire jurisdiction, that's of course your prerogative. I know the main reason it was done is because the 85th percentile speed in the jurisdiction was 30 miles per hour. And there was speed limit signs for 5 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour, 15. I think there was one that said 17. So it brought uniformity to it. So if there's something you want to review to bring it back down, and now's a great time because all the new speed limit signs haven't been put up yet. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Sounds like something for new business. Thank you for that, Mr. O'Connor. Next, we will have the report from the Police Department, Chief Reese.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. As it states in my report, we have the cost of service for this previous month. We did have a uptick in 911 disconnects, uptick in unknown troubles. We do want to make sure that the premise checks are high, which we have 228 within our jurisdiction. That's when officers are calling out over the air, over the radio system, excuse me, and dictating that they are checking the premise in that area. As it looks that we did have 5 gun recoveries, the 181 traffic stops, 524 citations, which includes warnings. Speed camera citations is just over 2,200, and we've recovered 13 stolen vehicles that came within our jurisdiction. Forsyth Police Department, within partnership with our police department liaison, Councilwoman Noble, participated in the dementia-friendly training with South County Dementia. We have been seeing an uptick in our jurisdiction of dementia. So with that, in partnership with her and South County Dementia, we have educated our officers to make sure that we are like first phase dementia friendly. We also have been in conversation, and so this has kind of sparked an idea to maybe that we may need to put some things in place to make sure that we are educating our residents about dementia, educating our police officers. And also that, you know, the most common things that happen with the residents with dementia. We want to make sure there's some things are in place, that the resources such as location devices, and making sure that our officers are aware that a person has some type of cognitive disease rather than under the influence or something. So we want to make sure. So that training was phenomenal. And we will be doing some more in-depth training with that. As you know, school started with last month. Forest Heights, we went to most of our schools to do a kind of welcome our students back. The next thing is we installed 5 more additional cameras within the town limits that we can use for, obviously, to recover stolen vehicles. But also to mention the other thing that with such as people with silver alerts for up in age and people that's driving vehicles, or amber alerts. We're able to monitor those vehicles as well that come into the town or that's traversing through the town. But with that being said, that is my monthly report for August, sir.
Thank you, Chief Reese.
And we also did, I'm sorry, with the I'm not sure if it was not publicized, but if you look in the recent news, there was a homicide in Montgomery County that the suspect was wanted, and our officers did a stolen vehicle recovery and captured the suspect with the gun in question. And so kudos to our police department for capturing and getting that individual off of the street. And that just to show that, you know, people can commit crimes in other areas, but they still can come back here. And so that's why we have, you know, things in place to make sure that we're monitoring that for individuals coming into the town. But with that, I'll entertain any questions, sir.
Thank you, Chief Reese. My question is actually not related to your specific report. It's something that was mentioned in Mr. O'Connor's report under the grant for the Real-Time Crime Center. Could you tell me a little bit more about that, sir?
Absolutely. Without going in depth too much, I'm going to kind of tie it together. So Real-Time Crime Center was like, we have all of these devices, such as the cameras that I spoke of. It will be a center that will kind of monitor that real time to make sure that we are shifting resources to a specific area if we're monitoring it. with that being said, Forest Heights has grown a lot within the past year. So what we want to do is we want to put things in place to make sure our resources is going where it needs to be, such as if we identify a person that is maybe suspicious or anything like that, there's somebody actually monitoring that. And communicating with our dispatchers and communicating with the officers, or just monitoring. The officers may be dealing with one situation but not looking at what's going on the other side of town, to where it's that we have that person monitoring cameras, devices and everything, so to make sure that we're utilizing our resources appropriately. That is a 100% grant funded. We are in conversations with Mr. O'Connor. We're asking money from the state. And then once we if we are awarded money from the state, the next step we were going to ask some federal dollars, because this is going to help us with the National View project that we have coming. So what we want to do is we want to kind of put things in place now. And then when things come beforehand and when that project gets up and running, we won't be trying to race against time to get things in motion, but this way everything be in place. It's on a smaller scale, but we want to make sure that we are able to expand on the things that we have put in place.
Thank you, Chief Reese. One question I want to figure out is, how does this change like staffing in your department, and what is the space requirement for
yes.
the equipment with the real-time traffic center or crime center?
Yes, sir. So it's not like usually what's going to have, you have to have a big room with a lot of servers. Everything now is web-based. So this is a good thing. And so which now we will look within the funding that we may receive from the state. We may use the funding from that to staff it. If that is not the case, we will try to shift our resources of what we currently have on staff and try to staff it. That's one of the reasons where we're asking for funding from the state and or the federal government.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Councilmember Brownson.
So you said that it's not gonna be, the real-time crime center doesn't have to be a physical space.
So it does have to be a physical space. So I'm just going to give you maybe I think I sent you guys some links earlier. Imagine a room with a screen that we're able to monitor cameras, such as maybe if this would give you a familiar. If you look at the Prince George's County Emergency Operations Center. If you have an operation, look at that as a smaller scale. Maybe a regular office may do that, maybe fit only 2 people in it. So we're not looking at a large space. We may be looking at maybe dedicating a space for it so they can be able to communicate effectively. Maybe a space for 2 consoles, maybe 2 computers and a large screen, if you can kind of visualize it, if you will.
I can, but do we have space now?
So currently, obviously, we're at the 5410 property. And so we can dedicate an office for that. But what we're trying to do is the things that we're going to do is we'll be able to be moved. Say, such as if we have a dedicated office at the space now, the grant funding will be able to provide for the screens, the systems. The most of the cost comes from the system that we have to subscribe to. And so if we dedicate a room that we have now, we can do that, because that will be the greater need for the town. Saying we also can utilize, if we are able to, if we're granted the funding, maybe to utilize the funding if we need more space. But that's all depending on if the funding. We won't dedicate anything to it now until funding is secure. So, but this is the once, and we're going to see what the state gives us.
Thank you, Chief Reese. Council President McDonald.
I just wanted to ask Chief Reese about the dementia-friendly training.
Absolutely.
Because I thought it was very interesting. I mean, I had an opportunity to, be there as well. And I'm just wondering if the data that we're collecting thus far, because you said there's an uptick, is there any kind of concerted effort around sharing that data with other entities, maybe Oxon Hill, the state, that kind of thing?
So
I'm just wondering if that's a broader issue?
So with that being said, since we're a partner with South County Dementia Friendly, that's a county-wide, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. So we will be able to share other parts with the county as well. So this is just our area. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to make sure I go further and partner with there's a facility down 210 called Crescent Ridge. And what we're going to do is they have already agreed to partner with the town to say that, hey, we have dementia residents here. And therefore our officers will get a chance to interact with them. And so we're going to use that data. Now, what we're doing is we will be the first dementia-friendly police department in the state. And so that's what we want to do. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're educated. It's basically like there's no playbook for this, but we're going to write it as we go. So that's why we're going to keep on pushing on with the training and going further with Crescent Ridge. But we are going to give this to other police departments as a playbook of what you can do in your respective communities.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Reese. Any other questions for the police department's report? All right, next we'll have the town administrator's report. Mr. Jones, if you could give a brief overview of your report, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is my overview for administration for the month of August. Our current staffing levels, we have 2 crewman vacancies due to 2 terminations within the Department of Public Works. So they are working extremely short-staffed at the moment. We do have some temporary labor that has been assisting them the last week. The police department has 2 vacancies, which they've had now for a month or 2. The deputy chief and a police officer position, and administration continues to carry 2 vacancies, the accounts payable and the part-time admin assistant. We completed the first and second round of the accounts payable interviews and have narrowed the candidates down to 2. They will be scheduled for final interviews with Mayor Lilly in the second week of September. And we anticipate that hiring resolution to be before the council at the September town meeting. We had our Forest Heights Master Calendar meeting on August 24th, where the mayor and town administrator met with all department heads, their administrative staff, and any departments that plan to host events throughout the town for the remainder of this fiscal year. We were able to go month by month, department by department, and iron out any conflictions between events and between departments. And that calendar will be published for the entire government in your Outlook program the second week of September. This allowed us to deconflict scheduling across the government, project expenditures for the year, and effectively utilize our staff and resources without creating employee burnout. So any events that are not on the master calendar will need to go through an approval process, starting with the host department, then a review by the town administrator, review by our finance department to ensure that we can sustain it financially, and then final approval will lie at the mayor's office. We did get most of all the events that were sent in by you all to the mayor throughout the year. But again, if you have anything, please send that. Once it's published, if you notice there's any changes or something was left off, send it in so we can work it through the approval process. And again, that'll be published in your Outlook the second week of September. And I will have a short tutorial how to click on the secondary calendar outside of your primary one so you can keep up. It opens the line of communication amongst us all as an entire government for what's going on in the town. And that even the calendar narrows itself all the way down to even reoccurring things like senior exercises on Tuesdays and Thursdays, council meetings, standing staff meetings on Thursdays, things like that. So everything is on that calendar. And that is my report for the month of August.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Are there questions for the town administrator's report this month? Councilmember Brownson.
Just have one question. You said the calendar goes through the department heads. So the youth and community outreach specialist, he's with a department head, right?
He's not technically considered a department head. He's the youth coordinator. He reports to me, so I'm technically his department head.
I just want to make sure that he gave us some events that I had mentioned.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, he brought us a list from Ms. Little and from you. I think the mayor had Councilmember McDonald's list and Councilmember Noble's. So
Thank you.
he actually was in the meeting for like 95% of his stuff.
Any other questions for the town administrator's report? All right, hearing none. We will now move to public period. And Ms. White, do we have anyone who has signed up to speak in public period at this time? Thank you, ma'am. Can you, Ms. Cynthia Mann, can you?
Okay, so you are
Please
going in
unmute.
and out, but I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, ma'am. If you could just state your street address, your name, and you will have 2 minutes to share your comments. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Cynthia Mann, 6010 Arapahoe Terrace. Several different topics. First, I'd like to thank the Mayor and Council for their support for the lawn care services that we are providing for our residents in the town of Forest Heights. I'm glad to report that 90% of the residents on the list do belong in the town of Forest Heights. I am also putting forth the request that if the town has it, that they can provide some additional funding to support that particular program. As you may remember, the program did also talk about snow removal from the walkways and what have you of the folks that are in the program. And I don't know, I got lucky last year and didn't have to spend any money on that, but I don't know what this year is going to bring. So I thought I would come to the Mayor and Council and ask that question. To a new topic, I hear a lot of talk, I've seen things.
Ms. Mann, could you repeat the program? We didn't hear that, ma'am.
It's called Small Act of Kindness. Under that umbrella, I have initiated lawn care services for seniors within the town of Forest Heights. Does that answer your question?
Say that one more time. Did you all hear that? Just having a little bit of bandwidth issue.
No worries.
So forgive me for
under the
asking
Greater
to repeat
Oxon
more than
Hill,
once.
that's okay. Under the Greater Oxon Hill Community Development Corporation, we have a program called Small Act of Kindness. There are several things that can fall under that program, but fortunately, the Small Act of Kindness under its umbrella is the lawn care services for our seniors. That particular program also will offer snow removal of their walkways and what have you when we get snow. So I want to make sure that I put that back out there. I have no clue what this year is going to bring in terms of weather, but I would like to be prepared for it. And any additional funding that you all could slide our way to support it would be very helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Mann.
And is my 2 minutes up?
Your time is up, ma'am. But thank you for your comments
Yeah.
tonight. Anything else, please feel free to email the council.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, Ms. McCutcheon. If you could please state your name and your street address or your street name, excuse me. You have 2 minutes to speak, and thank you for joining us tonight. If you're able to unmute
Hello?
yourself.
Hello?
Good evening, Ms. McCutcheon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. If you could just state your street name and
Sure.
thank you for being here tonight. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. My name is Andrea McCutcheon. As you know, I live on Seneca Drive. I sent you guys several emails this past week after I got a notice to cease and desist from harassing your officials, police department, I guess, and the code enforcement. And it was strange because when I sent you the email where the code enforcement officer admitted violations of your ordinance, conspiring to weaponize his position against the citizens, nobody said anything back about that. And when I've asked questions about the ordinance, it doesn't appear that the code enforcement or police department are familiar with their own ordinances or general orders. The other thing I wanted to say, as far as your speed limit of 30 miles per hour, when you had traffic engineering do that, you set a speed limit for the entire town that didn't even take into consideration the streets that don't have sidewalks, such as Seneca Drive, where the pedestrians, that's the main street going out, have to walk. The other thing is you haven't done, I don't think we get any patrols over there. There are people running the stop sign at Seneca and Mohican. 9 out of 10 cars are running this stop sign. I've been walking across the street and had to wait because they were flying down. And if you could have your program manager do something with that, with his radar system, I'd appreciate it. Because it's a hazard to the kids also that have to walk. So 30 miles an hour is too fast because your system, that engineering review is based on regular streets. These are not regular streets, as Councilman Kennedy had said. The other thing is, let's see, with your putting up these surveillance cameras, I think you're supposed to have a public hearing and let the citizens know what you're doing rather than doing anything like you've been doing and not letting the citizens know or have hearings about it. And, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that cease and desist letter, I asked you for some information that you assume my behavior was hostile or whatever, and you only got the point of view from the code enforcement officer who lied admittedly on that email.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon.
Right.
I appreciate your comments tonight. Your time is
Right.
up. But I wanted to respond and let you know that thank you for your letting us know about the sign running at Seneca and Mohican. We would love to take care with observing what's going on there. And thank you for your comments about the speed limit. I believe the council is going to be looking to address those issues. And I also thank you for your emails about the services you've received in the town. And I want you to know that even in situations where you haven't received an explanation back, we are considering your comments and your feedback and looking to do things properly in the town. So thank you for what you have provided this evening and for your concern for the town. At this time, we are going to have a brief recess. I see that Councilmember Little's family was able to stay. We're going to have a brief recess for 15 minutes. So we will come back at, someone please do the math for me. My brain is fried. It's going to be 9:03. Let's make it 17 minutes. We'll be back at 9:05. And if you're here, please stay to enjoy food in the gallery. pause your con. Just give another moment for a couple other people to take their seat and we will resume. This meeting will now come back to order. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a continuation of the Town of Forest Heights Council work session for September 5th, 2023, and the time is now 9:09. We're just coming back from a brief recess. Now, before we closed for recess, my apologies, not closed, before we recessed, we finished our public period, and now we will jump back into our agenda to consider legislation for tonight. The first item of legislation that we have is Resolution 7123, which is a fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2. This is a resolution to amend and adjust the sums and amounts stated in emergency ordinance numbers 03-23 for the fiscal year annual budget beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2020, is introduced by myself, Mayor Lilly. I move that we adopt Resolution 7123.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 7123. Discussion. And I'll begin by giving a short preface on this resolution. And actually, let me do this. Mr. Frankenfield, are you on the line, sir, and available to speak?
Yeah, so I'm here, just checking you can hear me. Mayor, can you hear me?
Give me just one moment.
Mayor, can you hear me?
One moment, sir.
Okay.
Here we go. There was just a replay of the recording on Facebook of the meeting.
So confirming you can hear me now? Mayor.
Oh, Mr. Frankenfield, okay, we can hear you now. I think we have the audio cleared. Could you just give a brief primer over some of the changes we're making with this budget amendment, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So we revisited the budget per the budget book originally drafted. We added it up, we added it to the accounting system. Good internal controls are we track each budget line by amount, and some variances occurred through that process. To summarize the budget amendment, we moved the public safety center from the speed camera department budget to the public safety department budget. We made a couple of line items and corrections in the revenue that was in the original ordinance. We corrected that. And the third change was we budgeted for approximately $70,000 worth of excess appropriated spending in the speed camera budget. And we'll use to reallocate and appropriate later on in the fiscal year as our spending patterns develop and needs arise. So I'll stop there, just making sure you heard me.
Yes, we're having some bandwidth issues, but I think we heard the majority. For items that council didn't hear, I think I can restate. And I'm just gonna restate that we moved an amount of money from the speed camera program into public safety. So the public safety center funding now has a line item under public safety. It's not under speed camera any longer. In the FY 2023 budget, there was a line item under the municipal building category. And there were notes in the PDF that we were going to create a new line item and move those funds. We did that. We just moved them into public safety as opposed to speed camera. And additionally, when reconciling the budget in the budget software, we noticed that there were some lines that had expenses coming out more than needed. And so we've created a new line item with speed camera savings. And I think Mr. Frankenfield was just explaining that we will leave these to be allocated later in the year if needed, as our spending patterns are analyzed. And with that, are there any questions or any discussion from other council members?
Yeah, question. I'm trying to figure out the.
Could you pull your mic closer to you?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out, this is 7123, right? I'm trying to figure out the last whereas the mayor and council further find that it is imprudent to authorize certain expenditures regarding the real property lease agreement at 5410 Indian Head Highway, approving previous expenditures outside the lease. And so I'm thinking this is what this is about, not the moving from the public safety center to the speed camera, right?
Well, that's the creation of the line item is just shoring up changes that we wanted to make in the budget anyway.
Okay, so the last whereas
Yes, ma'am.
is different than the moving the money. I mean, moving the public safety center from the speed cameras.
Yes.
Savings. Okay, so the question is can you explain the last whereas where in January through June, expenditures outside the lease of 14,300 for suites on the second floor from January to June, and authorize a payment for the second floor for August and September. So are you saying that it wasn't approved to lease the second floor at 5410 January through June? Or it was approved and now you want to approve it for August and September?
Well, what I'm saying is that
That's confusing within itself, isn't it?
yeah, what I'm saying is that I found that the payments were made and we need an authorization for those, and we need an authorization to pay for August and September as well.
Okay, so you're saying that you paid them without authorization. So now you.
That's what it appears to be, yes.
Okay.
Yep, and so I want to record that the payments happen, and I also want to get approval for August and September as well.
I have one more question.
Sure, Councilmember Bronson.
Is it standard practice to pay them without authorization?
No, it is not.
Okay.
And I would like to highlight the fact that bringing this resolution forward is to give council confidence that I'm going through and looking at where expenditures are happening and paying close attention that all the proper agreements are in place prior to all the proper authorization is secured. So this is both looking back slightly, but more so looking forward and having the proper controls in place.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding resolution 7123? Councilmember Kennedy.
Well, since it was brought up, what is the total for the second floor?
The total for the second floor. If I can, give me just one moment. I'm gonna add this up with the proper way. This is $23,470. $23,470.
But that's all the way from Jan, that's total, that's from January to September, you have to divide it by the month. Divided by.
Oh, Councilmember Kennedy, you were asking for the total amount, correct? Yeah, he asked for the grand total. $23,470.
One question.
Council President
So
McDonald.
that grand total is the 14,300 plus the 9170, right?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay.
And if it was not explained properly for the FY 23 payments for August and September and June or July, August, and September, those will be paid from the line item Public Safety Center, which has been created here, 90078050.
Point of information, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones, yes, sir.
The expenditures for FY 2023 will not be paid out of FY 24. They have already been expended.
Right,
They
we're just
are-
authorizing.
Yes, they were expended from the FY 23 Public Safety Center line item, the money that was appropriated for the first floor. So we are not actually over budget in FY 23. It was just not authorized to be making payments on the second floor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the intent of this resolution 7123 for FY 24 budget was to also encompass, I guess, authorizations, appropriations from January 23 through June of 23. Is that right? That would have to be done by a separate resolution to amend the past fiscal year budget. So that would have to be done, that type of housekeeping would have to be done with a separate piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Best.
Sure.
So let us. Okay. I propose that, I move that we amend resolution 7123 in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Striking in the sixth whereas the language January 2023 through June 2023. Is there a second? Oh, I need to amend the amounts. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Councilmember Kennedy.
So
Actually, before you say that, let me withdraw the amendment. I need to make a change. Councilmember Kennedy, you have a comment?
So this is fiscal year 2023. So according to this, but what about the monies for the use of the second floor in fiscal year 2024. How
So,
much more do we actually?
so 2024 is covered here, those months. There's 2 months so far, which is August and September. Is July included?
You're gonna say what happened to July?
And can I chime in, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I think for the other council members, I think the mayor's intention here was to flag for you all that there's a lease pending that hasn't been signed for the space on the second floor. The budget as drafted has the funding appropriated to cover the lease and the amendment that the mayor is working on revising with the landlord right now. So budget is whole, and we're talking about fiscal year 24 budget right now. We're focusing on 24. We haven't unpacked 23. We're still working through the accounting. So 24 standing by itself, the budget is whole, the budget is intact, the funding is in place. The mayor's goal here was to flag for you all that there was a lease that hadn't been signed, that hadn't been approved. Did I capture that properly, Mayor?
Yes, you did capture it. You did capture it. And I believe that, and I will ask, we mentioned it in the resolution to explain the amounts in FY 24, right? And then we also mentioned the other months as well, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Best, the way the resolution is not changing the amounts or the FY 23 budget, it's just notating that those expenses are related to the reason that we're moving appropriating these funds and moving the items to this line item.
I follow you. I do agree with you, Mr. Mayor. You know, the recitals they don't have the force of law. They simply tell a story. I don't see any need to really amend these recitals or this one that's the last one on page 104. It's fine. It's identified the issues. It tells the story. The substantive part of the ordinance starts where it says now therefore be it resolved and thereafter. And so all those numbers are substantive.
Thank you, Mr. Best.
Yep.
Council Member Brown, does that make sense?
No, not at all. It sounds as though we got 2 fiscal years that we're working with. And then 1 month is not included in there. So there's a lot going on in this. So no, it doesn't make sense.
Well, on the month being missing, that on the information being included about the attempt to capture the rent for this space, that narrative is in there to tell you that it also includes those months as well.
Right. But like you said, the money had already been allocated for 2023. All you're doing is trying to record the fact that a lease agreement wasn't approved.
Correct.
So that could be a separate little note and then start with FY 24. I mean, it don't have to be another resolution, but just separate the information. So to me, would be a little clearer.
Well, I think that what we could do, is to address the issues in FY 24 for this resolution, and we'll introduce a separate resolution to deal with. And we'll need to do it anyway because the recital is not changing anything in FY 23. It's just simply stating and telling the narrative. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions from council on this resolution? I do have an amendment to offer after.
All right, so 2023 fiscal year. That's understandable. I'm just hoping those months are correct and that we haven't been in there longer than that. But what did you say about July that's missing from here?
I said that we need to add July.
Okay, so is that an additional amount or is July, August, and September for that total amount that's on here?
Yeah, but I'm saying we should add it in the recital
Correct. But
Because it's not, the total would be different for 3 months as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I could chime in to Councilman Kennedy's question, he's asking about the missing month of July. So the amount for January through June 2023, the actual amount should be 11,300. And then on the second, well, I'm sorry, on the page 2 at the top, that's it's still the same whereas where it says $9,170 will be expended, needs to go up to. Well, first we need to say for July through, we need to strike August and add July. But then the amount is.
We need to insert July to be July, August, and September.
The amount should be $13,485 for July, August, and September. And we need to strike the word August and make it, well, it should say.
We should
July,
insert
August.
July.
Yes, July, August, and September.
so
Okay, so let me offer this. Let me all.
can you repeat what you said the total was, please? 13 what?
Yes, sir. On the bottom, whereas the total should decrease from 14,300 to 11,300. On the back page should increase from 9,170 to $13,485.00.
For my clarification.
That's for the months of July, August, and September. The previous amount of $9,170 only included August and September. Councilwoman Brownson brought up that we were missing July, which is correct.
So are we paying different amounts, different months?
It fluctuated. We are now paying them what the letter of interest said for a particular amount of suites.
Because if I take the 9,170 divided by 2, that's 2 months, and then, add it back in the 9,170. One that's actually a little more. That's the only reason I'm asking, because 2 plus 2 is not really equal.
Yes, so we're paying them, it's about $4,800 a month.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And if you need, I can send this refreshed copy to the printer if that makes it easier.
What I think would be helpful is a breakdown of the monthly costs, January through June, and then breakdown of the monthly costs for August, for July, August, and September.
I have another question. You said in this resolution, it was because we didn't have a lease agreement from January through June or whatever. Do we have a lease agreement for July, August, and September and there and further on? Or are we just going month to month?
No, it's currently a month-to-month agreement.
I had a question.
Councilmember Noble.
I guess for clarity for me and for looking back for future administrations, or just creating the flow that the next or whoever can understand just what we're saying here with these numbers and months and from one fiscal year to another fiscal year, just making it a little clearer. And I don't know if we can capture it in this one resolution.
Did you have a suggestion for how, or you just?
I think it, yeah, specifically FY 23, FY 24. Just because it gets confusing with the reading at the whereas, it says, to authorize certain expenditure regarding the real property lease agreement. But you didn't have a lease agreement.
And we didn't
Right.
authorize it.
Right, so it's kind of, I don't know.
Please tell me we're not planning on staying there much longer.
We'll discuss.
Well, the reason being is if you do the math for the first 6 months at that.
Like the cost and that is not.
Yeah, because at this rate, we'd be cheaper to actually build the Old Star Cleaner building.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. It's our intention to continue the effort with that Public Safety Center building. It's not the discussion in this particular resolution, but Council President McDonald.
We're only talking about the second floor, right?
Yes.
We're not talking about the building. We're talking
about
only
the second
about the
floor.
second floor. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, there's a few things that need to be amended. And I brought this resolution before the council for two reasons. One was to bring to your attention the gap and the payments that were made outside of lease, and also to show that we have a sufficient line item to pay for what we have expended and for the requests that we're asking to expend for July, August, and September. Also to show the increased savings line item with unallocated funding in the speed camera program. So what I believe we can do is amend the resolution to specifically state the changes we're making for FY24. We can handle FY23 in a separate resolution. And so I move that we amend Resolution 7123, striking
Actually, okay. The amendment, if the numbers are correct. So if you want, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm fine with the amendment, updating the number that's at the bottom. It's just that we had a gap with a month missing. So once we plugged that in and got the new numbers from the town administrator, I'm actually fine with this resolution, how it's amended.
Well, I was going to remove the amounts just to give us more time to clarify, because those amounts can be outlined in a future resolution. I'll keep the amounts for July, August, and September. I'm pretty confident that those amounts are
So if that's
correct.
the case, would you like to table it till the third Wednesday?
No,
Is this something that has to be passed tonight?
well, we need to pay the rent for September, or at least have the authorization to do so. And so I move that we amend Resolution 7123, striking in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in the sixth whereas, the number 14,300, and striking from January 2023 through June 2023, inserting July before the words August, and changing the amount to $13,485. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we amend Resolution 7123, striking the numbers 14,300 and striking the words from January 2023 through June 2023. Inserting the word July in front of August and changing the amount $9,170 to $13,485.
Okay, question, you're not
All-
dealing with FY 23 at all in this amendment?
No, not after striking those items.
Okay.
No, no, ma'am.
Taking out all that stuff.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. This resolution is amended. And I move that we adopt Resolution 7123 as amended.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 7123 as amended. Madam Clerk, please call for the roll.
We have Councilmember Noble,
Yes.
Councilmember Hines,
Yes.
Councilmember Hines,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Council President McDonald.
Yes.
Councilmember Little,
Yes.
Councilmember Browson,
Yes.
Mayor Lily.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7 yes, as amended.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we have Resolution 72-23. This is a resolution amending previously approved Resolution 15-23 for the proposals and contracts regarding the Town of Forest Heights Youth Bus funded through the Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Grant proceeds, introduced by Mayor Troy Lilly. And I move that we adopt Resolution 72-23.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 72-23. Discussion. And let me add on a note, there was an update to the line item that the funding comes from, which has been verified. And also, this is amending the amount and the vendor for the bus wrap, and it's also decreasing the amount for some of the equipment that was installed as part of this project. And so there was an increase for the wrap, but there was a decrease in the equipment that was installed. And so this amount still falls under the amount that was approved for the resolution. It is just now adjusting the vendor who did the work and some of the breakdown of the overall total. Is there any other discussion from council on Resolution 72-23? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Noble,
Yes.
Councilmember Hines,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Browson,
No, I'm just only because I didn't understand it and I wasn't here when it was originally approved. I don't have to justify, but no.
Councilmember McDonald,
Yes.
Mayor Councilmember Little, excuse me,
Yes.
Mayor Lily.
Yes.
Motion passed, 6 yes, 1 no.
Next, we have resolution 73-23. This is a resolution to adopt a credit card policy for the town of Forest Heights, Maryland, introduced by myself, Mayor Troy Lilly. I'm not asking that we vote on this resolution tonight, but the exhibit is attached. Is there a discussion? Well, to provide some background, I've worked with our treasurer, Mr. Frankenfield, to review current policies and procedures for credit card usage. Also, we have outlined some changes to the department's issued cards and limits that are defined there. And the card responsibilities are outlined, reconciliation and reporting responsibilities are outlined, and an acknowledgement is included as well for the cardholder. Councilmember Brownson.
Yeah, I just had one question. I never heard of is this a bank or financial institution, Divvy? Can we have a little background on who they are?
Yes, Divvy is a funding organization that allows online management of the credit card platform. So as an example, each item that can be added so that purchases have to be marked to a line item. And then also before purchases or a card can be used, has to be approved. So it's got online approvals that work to beef up the controls of how the credit card is spent and used. So if we notice activity that is abnormal, we can shut the card off. And we can also allow a card to be used for a one-time purpose for a limited amount of time. Say, for example, an event, a card can be authorized and then it can be shut off after that. So it doesn't require as many physical cards to be handled, but it allows oversight and control and management and reporting to be easier. So instead of having to get a paper receipt, if this is a purchase that's made electronically, the receipt can automatically be generated and tied to the budget line item. And I actually will, to answer some of this a little more, I'll let Mr. Frankenfield add some more commentary here.
Yeah, my question was, is Divvy a financial institution or is it online banking where you tied into your bank account already?
So I'll let Mr. Frankenfield answer.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. Just confirming you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So Divvy is owned by Bill.com, and it's, I'm sure all the commissioners are familiar with Bill.com, which is the town's online checkbook. So Bill.com rolled out this credit card platform, which is Divvy. Like the mayor said, it gives us a lot of technological advances, credit card reconciliations and receipt tracking, and the accounting for such is very labor intensive. So the system will talk right directly to the accounting records, cardholder charges, cardholder codes, cardholder attaches receipts, my team reviews, and then the accounting's updated instantly, and we have actual budget. We have more timely budget versus actual reports. So that's the benefit. The technology is much better than our current processes.
So I guess I'm trying to understand, and I'm not that software savvy, but so this is tied to some kind of account. I'm trying to get to what is it tied to?
Mr. Mayor, if I could. Mr. Frankenfield, yes, go ahead and answer this, and then Mr. Jones, I'll come to you after.
So the town applied for a Divvy credit line. So essentially, The
Excuse-
charges are accrued the first through the 15th.
Could you state that last part again, Mr. Frankenfield?
So the town applied for a credit limit with Divvy.
Oh, okay.
The town's credit limit is $50,000. How Divvy works is expenses are accrued the first through the 15th, and then Divvy initiates an auto payment for all charges through the 15th. Same thing happens for the second half of the month. Charges are accrued 16th through the 31st, payments automatically transferred from the town's cash account to Divvy. Our team reviews the activity. Our team can dispute any transactions. And then our team reviews the receipts and the spending and the coding of the cardholders.
Okay. And another question, okay, now I understand that process because actually Divvy is giving you all a $50,000 line of credit and just automatically tracking the services.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my next question is there a charge associated with this to the town?
No,
Mr. Frankenfield, can you answer that?
yeah, no, that's correct. There's no charge. And that's one of the best things about Divvy is it's free to its users. They want the transaction fees, so they're actively looking for the business.
Oh, so there is a transaction fee.
Well, so, if you're a vendor and you charge with a credit card, the
Yeah.
transaction, the processing company keeps 2 or 3%. So they collect it from the vendor, not necessarily the town.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Brownson, any other questions?
So how widely acceptable is this credit card in this area?
Well, the nice thing is that Divvy uses established credit card networks. I believe it's a Visa network that they use, so it
Okay.
has the same acceptance as other Visa credit cards do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council regarding resolution 7323? Council President McDonald? Okay. Okay, we'll revisit this at our next regular meeting. Next, we have resolution 74-23. This is a resolution to approve the rental agreement with Jiffy John Incorporated for the rental of portable restrooms and hand washing stations for Forest Heights Day. Introduced by Mayor Lilly, myself. Mr. Jones, we need to approve this or to have council consider this tonight.
That is correct.
All right, I move that we adopt resolution 74-23.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 74-23. Discussion? Mr. Jones, can you give a brief overview?
Yes, this is our only Forest Heights Day expenditure that exceeds the $5,000 spending threshold. Therefore requires council approval. So this is our normal Porta John vendor, Jiffy John Inc. out of Capitol Heights, Maryland, that we use for all of our town events. We normally do not have to rent this many porta potties, but the crowd size is much larger. So this includes handicap and regular restrooms for our residents. There are 2 slightly upgraded. They're porta potties, but they're supposedly have a urinal and a flush button in them for our entertainment. Because we have a lot of entertainment for Forest Heights Day, and there's 2 of them. They're upgraded, yes, for the entertainment for Forest Heights Day.
The porta potty is gonna be a part entertaining?
No, for
Oh,
for the contracted entertainment. We have 3 different bands and trying to finish negotiations tomorrow for our host. But instead of us renting a porta potty trailer, which would be thousands of dollars, we opted for a nicer porta potty than the trailer. So, and this also includes a dozen hand washing stations to put around the event. since the COVID numbers are going back up in Maryland.
And one more question, Mr. Jones. For the this is staying within the amount that we authorized in total for Forest Heights Day for
Yes.
FY '24.
Yes, I've already deducted this from the expense spreadsheet. We just can't pay it until we have council approval.
Are there any other questions from council on resolution 74-23? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Hines.
Yes.
Councilmember Noble. Yes. Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilmember Browson.
Yes.
Councilmember Little.
Yes.
Council President McDonald.
Yes.
Mayor Lily.
Yes.
Motion passed. 7 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we have resolution 75-23. This is a resolution to amend the mayor and council of the town of Forest Heights, appointing council committees and chairs. I believe this is missing a word. This is a resolution to amend the mayor and council committees of the town of Forest Heights, appointing council committees and chairs. This is introduced by myself, Mayor Lilly. Is there a discussion?
Feels that my name is on a lot of this stuff.
Well, Councilmember Brownson, that's funny. I actually made some changes from the original version that I think we had proposed last month. Made some changes to include our new council member. And I believe I reduced your name or removed your name from
And it's that, Councilwoman Elizabeth.
does it?
Mhm.
Where there's some committees that you wanted to come off of? Mhm.
It's my name is on- out of the four.
But her name is on all three on this one. This is the new one.
Let's see, Councilwoman Noble name. Isn't that right? No,
Oh, Council Member Brownson,
Oh,
that means we trust you tremendously and appreciate you. I'm just messing with you. Okay, let's see here.
I'm sorry. I'm just. Here's the old. Right, you can put that on. No. Well, like the Ways and Means Committee and the Financial Advisory, they're almost the same thing in a sense. And my name is on both.
Okay, well, I think maybe we have one proposed. Council Member Noble. Can we add you to the Finance Advisory Committee?
Okay, since I was already there, I'll accept that appointment. You can already replace it.
I'm gonna do it, because I'm on the ways and means. Committee.
Okay. Any other discussion on resolution 70? /23. Madam Clerk, do we need to vote on, this resolution tonight? However, if we've made the satisfied changes, I think actually, I move that we adopt resolution 75/23 as amended. And well, actually, no. Give me 1 second. It's not the resolution that needs to be adopted, it's the exhibit that's amended. So, Madam Clerk, if you could record in your record that we are going to remove Councilmember Brownson from the Finance Advisory Committee and replace her with Councilmember Paula Noble. Okay. You have a question, Council President McDonald?
I do. Where does Sustainable Maryland for Forest Heights fall? What committee is that?
Well, while it's not its own committee called out,
Is that beautification and
it can fall
appearance?
under beautification and appearance, sure.
So
But
that's gonna be
it doesn't have to, have its own freestanding committee. It could be part of the
Sustainable.
discussion. It can be part of the discussion in the beautification and appearance committee. And I'd also like to point out the last part of the document, the exhibit that's listing out the community assignments. We're interested in encouraging citizen participation in each of the committees. So outside of the 4 main committees, residents can be a part. And I think that it would be helpful to encourage them to apply. And so that as we make decisions in the town, we can consider changes, improvements. And so that can influence resolutions and legislation. So when we vote on it, we can have the confidence that we've already discussed these items in the community and we're addressing a need with resident input. Well, it may not fall under a committee specifically, but excuse me. Okay. You like more time? That's not a bad idea. Maybe that solves that. And maybe we make that Forest Heights Events Committee and maybe we'll have you be the council liaison.
All right.
That's fine, not a problem.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do you have that change recorded? Well, I'll make you the council liaison. Yes, ma'am. All right. Madam Clerk. Well, I just want to make sure I move that we adopt resolution 70, was it 7523?
Yep.
Is there a second?
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 7523. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Noble.
Yes.
Councilmember Hines.
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilmember Little.
Yes.
Councilmember Bronson.
Yes.
Council President McDonald.
Yes.
Mayor Lily.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7 yes, 0 no, as amended.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. At this time, just one moment. All right, this time we will have council member reports. And I will begin with Ward 1. I'm sorry. It's moved after. It's moved after. It's later in the agenda. At this time, we're going to move into ward reports and we'll begin with Ward 1. And let's just begin by welcoming once again our new council member in Ward 1, Shanice Little. Would you have anything to say, any comments?
No reports today.
Okay, well, Councilmember Little, you also can just speak. It's your time to speak if you have anything else you'd like to share or comments on your new appointment or anything else that's gone on.
No reports.
Okay.
Today.
All right, very good, fair enough. Council President McDonald.
Yes, good evening. So just to share with everyone, September the 9th, Ward 1 will be hosting a meet and greet now that we have our second Ward 1 rep on board. It'll be from 10 to 12 here at the town, and come out and have some fun, and we'll be available to update the residents in Ward 1 on what's going on in the town, among other things. September the 10th, from 10 to 12, we will have another youth ride, and we will be meeting at the gathering place from 10 to 12. I'm giving over my Sustainable Maryland in Forest Heights to my colleague here. Yes. I am giving over the lead on the Sustainable Maryland in Forest Heights to Councilmember Brownson. I've already made roads for you. I've contacted Mr. Hunting Hake, and he is on leave right now, but he will be available to meet with you after well, actually next week, but we'll talk some more about that. And I will be joining you. Okay, now that we've been.
One moment. So I just want to add in here, Council President McDonald, well, you were very motivated about sustainable Maryland, and you may have a higher level of passion and interest in running this. So maybe that's a conversation between you and Councilmember Brownson later on.
I'm accepting that.
Given these new, excuse me, Mayor, may I? Giving these new committee assignments, things have shifted. And I'm going to be taking on some other lead role responsibilities, and the Sustainable Maryland in Forest Heights falls under your subcommittee, ma'am. Thank you.
What, Ways and Means?
No, the beautification. Yes, ma'am.
I don't agree with that, but we'll discuss it.
Thank you.
Like offline.
I would add that the committee discusses what goes on with the program. They don't necessarily have to run the program. And so let's continue. Let's discuss that at a later time. But thank you for bringing it up so we know, Councilmember McDonald. Thank you. Next, we'll have Ward 2, and we will begin with Councilmember Brownson. Councilmember Kennedy.
Just want to say thank you for all the support that was shown. Thank you.
Ward 3, Councilmember Hines.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I would like to say that can't even think of the day. I went out to welcome the children back at Forest Heights Elementary. It was definitely a blowout. I mean, it was really great. Our officers were there. It was really nice. Everybody, Forest Heights was represented. So I'm sorry I couldn't make any of the other schools. I also went out to the giveaways for the backpacks, and that was everyone was so appreciative. So that was definitely, heads up. Thank you, the police department and everything. Also, if you've never been online trying to listen to the meetings, I ask that every one of the council people and the mayor be on this. I can't hear you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. Well, I guess we got another friendly reminder. When you speak, if you could pull the mic close to you. And additionally, I know we don't want to yell, but maybe speaking with the higher volume, we're trying to match the experience indoors and online. So thank you, Councilmember Hines, for bringing that up. We'll continue to keep at my attention that we need to speak louder sometimes and speak into the mic always. All right, Councilmember Noble.
Yes, for Ward, well, this is for the town of Forest Heights. Dementia Friendly America South County will have its meeting here second Wednesday at 6:30. So the town residents, community, they're all invited, 6:30 on next Wednesday. Always second Wednesday of the month. And then we will go back to Zoom and then come back quarterly into the town. And I think I just want to just do for September 11th, just recognize Ms. Sherman, who lost her life during the 9/11. It was a resident of the town, and she lived and she worked at the Pentagon. So just keeping her family and town of Forest Heights as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble, and all other council members for your ward reports. Since our last meeting on August the 7th, it's been a lot that's transpired in the town. I do want to first start by saying that it was a pleasure to be with Councilmember Kennedy and his family as we celebrated the life of his father, Mr. Jonathan Kennedy Sr. A lot of folks from Forest Heights were there both on Friday night and then on Saturday morning for the memorial service. It was great just to spend time with them. He and his family have been in the town for over 40 years. And that's really a statement to the strong community that we have. And Mr. Kennedy was one of the stronger members who was active and dedicated. So that was really, I don't know if I call it a highlight, but that was just a moment that, you know, shows what Forest Heights is made of. I want to recap a couple of things that happened in the last month regarding to the 5-point plan I proposed to residents of the town. As it relates to digital transformation, I met with the staff, has already been notated tonight to do an annual master planning calendar. So the calendar for the year is now totally online. We'll be able to tell folks what we're going to do. We are accountable to what we're going to do, and that allows us to both forecast, and then it also allowed us to see, as we laid that calendar out, where we have too many things in 1 month, where our resources are going to be stretched thin. And then it also allowed us to look at the whole year and make sure that the points in the community that we want to hit, and the 5 points that I've promised to deliver as mayor: infrastructure, digital transformation, youth and community engagement, economic development, beautification, and planning for the future, is captured in our snapshot for the year. We were happy to have some input from council as well to help with dates and things that you're planning. Please feel free to let us know about items as they come up so we can get them ahead of time, get flyers distributed, get them into the newsletter, get promotion and staffing to adequately carry out programs in an effective manner. A couple of projects that were finished, I'm not going to belabor the point by going over them, but I just want to retouch on Seneca and Sachem Drive sinkhole repair. That's been completed, as well as the enhancements to the Veterans Memorial and the community gathering space. We had our first Thursday nights in Forest Heights open mic on August 31st. Musical performances, spoken word, and more. We're hoping to have more artistic enrichment events like that throughout the year. So upcoming, we have a number of street repair projects that are kicking off this week. We've had a long lead up to assessing where some road repairs need to happen in the town, and this project will touch both sides of the town. It's going to include streets like Modoc Lane, Arapahoe Drive, some portions of Shawnee Drive, and Alden Way. And we talked about some of these changes, streets that will be affected, and some of the scope of the project in the newsletter last month. That information will be included in the newsletter this month as well. And we're going to have 2 events this Thursday, September 7th. We're going to have a groundbreaking event on September 7th at 11 a.m. at 606 Modoc Lane. This is just to go over in person the scope of the projects, what the effects will be, and to kick off the project, because it's going to last for a while and it's going to happen in multiple areas in the town. And then on that same day, Thursday, September 7th at 7 p.m., we're having a virtual Q&A. And this is an opportunity for residents to call into Zoom or to watch on Facebook or ask questions on YouTube, so that we can both put out specific information about the impacts that these projects will have, and residents can ask questions for where they don't have understanding. That'll be at 7 p.m. There's a flyer that's gone out for this event. There's an invite that went out to council. And do we have the link? Are we able to show the flyer or the link on Zoom tonight for any of these events, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. If we could include the link for joining the virtual Q&A on Zoom. Do we have a flyer we can pull up?
Yes, we'll get it up.
Okay. Well, let's give some time. If there's other events that we have flyers for this month, I'd love to show them on the screen so folks can capture the information and see what we have upcoming. The closures related to street repair, the street repair project will begin on September the 9th. So again, the Q&A will happen on September the 7th. Closures will begin on September the 9th. We have Forest Heights Day coming up on September 16th. It's going to begin at 11 a.m. That's when the parade will start. From 12 to 7, the festival will take place at the fields behind Forest Heights Elementary School, which is 200 Talbot Drive, or there will be access from Bell Acres Park. So there's 2 ways to get in and out of the festival this year. We'll also have flyers with the featured acts forthcoming as we get closer to the date. And lastly, I wanted to recognize that we have the inaugural Veterans Roundtable event, which is a conversation and an opportunity for veterans in our community to come and talk, discuss their experiences with one another, and then how they can support each other in the town. Our prior mayor, Mayor Washington, stood up a Veterans Commission, which consists of some members of the veteran community in our town. And this is going to be the first event that happens inviting veterans out to come and talk. And I want to emphasize that this event is open to all veterans, regardless of their discharge status. We want to provide a community where people can talk and get resources and share. So this is going to be an intimate engagement for veterans to come, talk, and share and begin the work that the Veterans Commission will do throughout the year. Lastly, I just want to provide one quick update. Congressman Ivey's office and his constituent services team, we've sent a request to them to find out about the status of the Oxon Hill Cove and Farm Trail and the pedestrian bridge that leads to that trail. Currently, the trail that comes from Bell Acres Park and then leads to Oxon Hill Cove Trail, that bridge has been gone for many years. And so in order for residents to get to that trail, which has miles of paved roadway or trailway and many acres of open green space, they've had to walk through the mud or traverse a ravine. Congressman Ivey's office let us know that 1.48 miles of trail is going to be repaved. 6 different species of trees will be installed along the trail, and that the pedestrian bridge is scheduled to be replaced with that project's work scheduled to begin in January and be completed tentatively in April of 2024. And that concludes reports for this month. Before we move on, do we have flyers we can show for folks at home? Okay, just a moment. Oh, Councilmember Brownson was asking about the closures I mentioned on September 9th. I was stating that on September 9th, that's when the road closures will begin. So there's going to be a period of soft closures where we get residents used to the fact that the road will be closed. So for those who don't get to attend the Q&A or who didn't see the newsletter, there'll be access control at those places so they can be aware and informed ahead of the construction beginning of next week.
Okay, so do roads have to be closed on weekends if the work is starting on Monday?
Well, there's going to be soft closure to get folks prepared. So on Monday, they'll be aware.
This is a Saturday. I'm thinking
Well,
about
Councilman Brunson, the road
what's-
doesn't have to be closed, but what we're doing is we're going to help educate folks ahead of the permanent fixed closure.
They said you don't have to educate on a road closure. They say it closed, it's closed. You don't have to, you don't have to close it 2 days on the weekends just because you're going to start work on Monday.
Mr. O'Connor, could you provide a little more commentary on the strategy behind the closure rollout?
Yeah, some of it is education based on the no parking and the reroutes and the detours, but the contractors are already started mobilizing and they've already started doing some work. So what we do is we close the road down so they can either get their equipment in, move the equipment, or if in some cases, just like Seneca, they started early. They actually were out on Saturday and Sunday out on the roadway without some of the equipment. So what we do is we have the anticipated start date, the road gets shut down. This way, when the contractor arrives, we don't have any issues. Plus, shutting it down on the weekends for those that are going to be inconvenienced with parking, it gives them the opportunity to figure out a plan of where they want to go and how they want to do it versus, hey, it's Monday morning, I got to commute to work and the road's closed. So it's really a time of adjustment, but more so for the project as well.
Councilman Russell?
Okay, so it's our town, our project. Why can't we make the decisions? If they're not gonna be starting until Monday, why can't we make the decision that the road will be closed, open on weekends and close it on Monday at 5 o'clock or whenever it is, you know?
Well,
It seems like.
let me get clarification on that, because I think that's a different question than what I was answering in the beginning. So to begin the project, we'll have some vehicles coming in and out. Is that correct, Mr. O'Connor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So when the vehicles are coming through, there'll be closures, and when they're not, the roadway will be open.
So in some areas, the roadway will be open. In other areas, the roadway will not be open. And to answer the very direct question as to why we shouldn't do it, well, it comes down to risk management and liability. So as there are active construction zones, the same thing with pedestrians or anybody walking through, if we leave that roadway open and there's an open ditch or there's roads or there's a equipment in the roadway or even in the right of way, and somebody happens to, fall in the ditch or a car goes in the ditch, it's liability on the town. So closing the roadway is a safety issue, risk management issue. The bigger question, I think both ties in, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be as brief as possible, which is that we are directly working with the contractor to have closures that minimize the impacts. And what we're trying to do is close certain segments of the roadway at a time while the construction's happening versus an overall closure. So we're trying to meet in the middle from what Councilmember Bronson's saying and what you're saying, lessen the impact. But I would not recommend for liability and risk management to open a construction zone up on the weekend so people can drive through.
Well, the reason I say that because at Seneca, that road was closed on a Friday night. I didn't see any equipment coming until Monday morning, and the residents were highly upset, and so was I.
Unfortunately, sometimes progress does cause the inconveniences. But the
I understand
contractors.
that too, but if it wasn't any construction.
Point of order. So I only want one person to speak at a time on this, and I am going to yield the floor to Mr. O'Connor to finish. If you have something else to say, I will yield the floor to you as well, Council Member Brownson.
Mr. Mayor and Council, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Miss Utility was actually out in the roadway, marking the roadway. I was out there as well as contractors were out there. So we, regardless of whether there was equipment there or not, there was other items that were being done to prep for equipment to come in. So, it just comes down to a safety issue.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Councilmember Brownson.
I have nothing else to say. That I was just totally unsatisfied with that.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Can I make a recommendation? I know we're saving money by working on two different areas at the same time since they have their equipment out. But because Forest Heights Day is basically the following week, can I suggest or ask that we repave Seneca first? Because God forbid we run into any underlying problems, it'll at least give us a couple of days longer to address them.
Just one moment, Mr. O'Connor. Councilmember Kennedy, give me that suggestion again. I just want to make sure I got that clear.
So basically, we're gonna be working on Arapahoe Drive and Seneca, because that's how we were able to save money. They're gonna bring in their equipment, so you might as well do multiple places at the same time. If we do Arapahoe first, and let's say they end up trying to mill and overlay Seneca 2 days before Forest Heights Day, if we run into any underlying problems, they're not gonna have time to do that. And we would hate to have everything diverted down Delaware for Forest Heights Day.
Okay. So, Mr. O'Connor, I think what we are hearing is Seneca Drive is going to be widely used on Forest Heights Day. So we need to just look at the plan and make sure we can minimize impact there at that critical point, since folks will be likely entering car traffic and otherwise.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I can say with actually great confidence that there'll be no paving that soon on any of the projects, and Seneca will be open for that. We actually planned accordingly, so there should be no impacts from that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I see some flyers on the screen. Are we able to show them individually or just collectively? Collectively. Okay. Well, with that being said, I think those who were in the audience or on Zoom have been able to see the flyers. If we could post links that we have to the Q&A in the chat, that would be helpful. All right. Is there, we'll move on at this point in the meeting. Is there any new business at this time?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Hines. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Council Member Hines.
I would just like for us to revisit the speed limit in the town of Forest Heights. I feel that the speed limit is too, it's giving, race car drivers to come through these streets, okay? I see it. I don't understand why it got changed. But as I said, 20 miles per hour was what I've been seeing on the signs, and I'd like to revisit it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. It sounds like we adopted, or the council adopted, changes to the speed limit at a recent time in the past. One of the goals of that change was to bring uniformity across the town. And does the council wish to entertain a change to the speed limit itself, the standard speed limit across the town? We don't have to make the decision tonight, just hoping to get discussion on that. Okay. Mr. O'Connor, what is it that you would like to add?
Just as a matter for the record, Mr. Mayor, my notes, I had 30 miles per hour written down and it did not feel correct. So I made sure I went back and researched the resolutions. In fact, the adopted speed limit went from 20 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. So per the ordinance that was passed by the mayor and council at that time, it's 25 miles per hour. So I misspoke when I said 30, but it's across the town, it's 25 miles per hour. It doesn't really change any of the statistics previously mentioned overall, but I wanted for the record just to make sure I corrected that.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Okay. So there's a correction, I guess, in the record from what's been stated tonight earlier. So the speed limit is currently 25 miles per hour, and Mr. O'Connor, is that town-wide?
It is, with the exception of school zones, which remain 15 miles per hour.
All right, council, any discussion on that update to the actual posted speeds? Council President McDonald.
So do we have signs that are, other than the school signs, more than 25 miles per hour? Because I thought that on Livingston Road, it was 30.
That's a county road, so it's a county controlled speed limit.
Okay.
The municipal roadways are set at 25.
All right. Any other new business? Okay, hearing none. Give me just a moment. Okay. Just one moment. I move that we go into closed session. And this is under the statutory authority in the general provisions of articles subsection 3-305 to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, consider the acquisition of real property for public purpose and matters directly related thereto. And
This.